Hi, my name is Peter Haddleston. Tonight I'm going to demonstrate briefly how to create a power pivot model, only not creating that tabular model using Excel. I'm going to do the equivalent of the model, creating it in Analysis Services Tabular. Um, the very first process of ever making a model is you've got to get data into the model. And in this case, on Analysis Services, it's very similar to what you do in Excel, except the fact that the icons are a little different, and you got to get used to that. But the process of very first bringing the data in is you've got to go get it or link to it. In this case, I'm going to link to an instance of SQL Server on my home client machine, and I'm going to hook up to an Analysis Services, or not an AdventureWorks Data Warehouse 2012. I'm running a 2012 version of Analysis Services Tabular here. I'm going to use a service account. I've created a service account on this client PC so that when I import data, I can pull it without setting access to each individual table or use a username password. I don't want to have to type that all the time, so I just created a service account. But that's the next step of the impersonation information. The impersonation information is when SQL Server pulls the data from a relational database into analysis services, and that's where this is getting used. The next step is to pick the tables that I want. And in my case, I'm just going to pick two tables because I want to make it quick and make this demonstration not take a long time. So I'm going to pick fact internet sales. I'm going to pick a dim date table. One nice thing about analysis services is you'll click a button right here, and this will find all the relationships to that are defined in the database, and it'll pick the tables that you need. In this case, I don't want to pick all of them because I just want to pick two, so I want to show you something quick. Now what I'm going to do is in this here dimensions, I want to get rid of columns that I'm not interested in. And in this case, there's some columns in here that aren't really in English that I don't want to keep, if I remember right. Let's look here. I don't need Spanish month name, and I don't need French month name for starters. This is a demo. We'll get rid of some more columns later in the next step. And right now, what's happening is I'm only pulling these two tables in, the fact and the dim table, but imagine this fact table having a lot of dim tables. It's basically a real similar process. I'm just giving you an abbreviated view so you don't have to look at so much stuff. Um, it gives a nice report of what it's pulled in and from where and if it was successful. The next step here is to go look at it. This looks really similar to the Power Pivot in Excel. As you can see, I've got two tables in here, dim date. And if we go look at the relational, we can see that they're joined together. One of the key aspects you have to do with tabular models is you have to go into table and you have to say what, no, I don't want to use order date. I want to use dim date, and I want to go up to table, and I want to set date and table. And the reason you do this is so that the internal calculations of the model know what date key is the real key that you'd be using for your date. And it's used for all the um, date arithmetic, like quarter to date, month to date, year to date type calculations. I'll show them in a different demonstration, but they are pretty nice. The next thing we do here is after we've got the date set up, we go look through the table and we can see that there may be some information in there that we don't care about. Let's go look at like the Spanish day of the week. How do I get rid of this here column? I right click on it and I click delete column, and it goes away and it's out of the model. Another thing I want to do here is I want to build a hierarchy, but off of month day, but I want July to know how to sort. So the way you fix that is you click the column, you click the no, that's the wrong one. I always click the wrong one. Okay. You got to get back. Click this. Yeah, it's this one. Sorry, wrong one. You select the month. I'm going to want to pick the month, number of year. And you'll see why this is kind of important later on in the demonstration, is that when we start grouping, we want month that should not be sorted alphabetically. We want it sorted by numeric. So now we've got a real brief. Let's create some measures. So let's create one here real quick on extended amount. The nice thing about it is it'll write DAX on the fly. You don't have to write. This is the DAX equation. I'm just going to kind of abbreviate it up so it's not quite so long. There's one. Another one here might be, let's go, let's just do another one. I'll show you how to do a different type of aggregate. We're going to do a count this time of that column. So you know how many lines are on the invoice lines. I don't know what's going on here. I get something funny. Okay, so anyway, we've got this thing's been fixed. And if we pull this out, we can see that it's actually doing the aggregations already. You can kind of validate your DAX functions right away. Another thing we're going to do is something called a calculated column. Very simple to do. You start out with you basically put an equal sign, and then you start with a square bracket. I thought it would be kind of nice to know, for example, freight plus the extended amount. Okay, we'll call that and we'll check to see if that works. And then we'll rename this column. It's actually building this in that model all behind us. Okay, so we'll rename this your column. And we're going to call it the delivered price. Okay, so then another thing we probably want to do is add an aggregate to that one too. I'll just leave it like that. I'm not going to rename it. So now we've got a model that's kind of set up. The interesting thing about this model, some things I show you briefly, I show you how to basically tie the date to the calculation model. Showed you how to eliminate columns. If you want to delete columns after the fact, like right now, I can delete this here column right here, and it's deleted from the model. We don't have to see it. We also can see that you can see how this is joined together. Each one of these shows you how they're joined. Very nice tool to work with as far as your joins. Also realize that these are all equijoins. You can't have an outer join in this stuff. The next thing we want to show you here is that now we've got a model. Let's test it. How do we test the model in Excel? Oh, one more thing I want to show you is how to create a perspective. I'm going to create a perspective and tell you first what a perspective is about. No, I haven't created a calendar hierarchy. Let's do that. Let's see here. Month. We're adding these to the hierarchy. Okay, so we've got your, let's go fix these names a little bit so they look a little nicer. Oh, shoot. Okay. Rename this. We're going to call this. Okay, we've got a hierarchy here on that. So I've got you a hierarchy. Do I have a perspective? Now let's go create the perspective. Okay, now we'll go create a perspective for you. And the perspective, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the fields that I really want to show. or exposed to Excel. And that's what's nice about this here's perspective, is that you can limit people from the model as what they can see. So for example, I can pick these here. Fields that are my explicit measures, and I called it new perspective. I don't know if I like that name very well, but let's go in here. Okay. Let's call it demo. There we go. And let's click OK. So we got a perspective out there. So now I've got explicit measures, I've got calculated columns, I've got a date that's been created into a hierarchy. Let's go test this thing in Excel with a perspective. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to select my perspective, which is my demo perspective. Testing it in Excel, it's going to open up Excel hopefully. And all right, so it's opening Excel and it's opening up a pivot table. Let's go look at this, for example. Let's look at the count of the invoices, and then we'll go by calendar. I'm going to pull it this way so it's a little more interesting to look at. So for example, if you open up this, look at this. It's sorted correctly, isn't it? Okay, another thing you can do up here is you can go up and filter, and I'm going to only look at, say, for example, 2007 data. And if you go look at this, you've got your numbers here. So that's the count of the invoice lines. So it gives you a perspective of the amount of sales, how they seem to increase. But also we want to look at dollars and see if that the extended amounts go up also. And as you can see, these here months were much heavier sales and a number of items and that kind of thing. So that's interesting. Okay, so now we basically have a model that works. We've proved it in SSAS. Now what we need to do is we need to push this model up to a tabular model, and how you do that is up to a tabular SQL instance of analysis service. The way you do that is you deploy, and right now it's going to deploy it up to my instance of analysis services. Just realize this is the name of it. It's called Demo Tabular. So the deploy actually happened. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to minimize all this stuff. And what we're going to do next is we're going to open up a copy of Excel. And when we open up the Excel, the copy of Excel, I'm going to pull some data, and I'm going to go from other sources, and I'm going to go from analysis services, and I'm going to call, hopefully I got that in there. Go next. And we have a model up here. Let's go look and see what name, Demo Tabular. Okay. Okay, so we're opening up that database, and we have two perspectives. We have a perspective that's the model, and we have a perspective that's a demo, and this is the whole cube. This is the model. So we'll open this, we'll go next, and finish, and we'll pull a chart too. But that said is where it wants it to land if you create a pivot chart. So in this case, I want to pull the extended amounts, and I want to go grab calendar, and I want calendar stuck over here, so I can see by year. Now if I also want to go and filter this down by, say for example, by a month, I can do it that way also, and I can go in here and I can push that, and I can see by month. And as you can see, I've got a very quick calculation that basically, this is an Excel that's pointing to a tabular model. And that's kind of the crust of this here demonstration. Thank you for watching.